If they don't meet, that's quite a big deal.
Well, I don't think he should. The sadness is that this is a father and son.
And when he gave his interview in May, to me, it was just like a completely different tone.
You've got the William factor. William's not interested in any reconciliation. You've got the Meghan factor. This woman will never set foot back in this country again. Her relationship with Britain is destroyed. I think it's pointless having them on the screen with little grey hearts cut out to cover their faces.
The question is, how does she sustain? Can she sustain?
Welcome to Royal Exclusive, where this week Prince Harry is preparing to return to the UK. But will the royal family roll out the red carpet for this troublesome guest? Meghan's fending off criticism for sharing more censored images of Archie and Lily, while Queen Camilla shows how to defend yourself against an unwelcome visitor. And with the royals returning to work after the summer break, what should we look forward to in this new term? I'm Matt Wilkinson, Royal Editor of The Sun, and joining me today to discuss all of this and more is royal journalist Victoria Murphy and The Sun's former royal correspondent, Charles Ray. Right guys, Royal Exclusive, as I'm sure you know, we deal in facts, we deal in opinion, and occasionally delve into speculation. And there has been speculation this week that when Harry comes over, that he will meet the King. Victoria, I'm going to put you on the spot. You know what's going on. Do you think Harry and the King will meet when he's over next week?
You've put way too much pressure on me there, Matt, right from the beginning. The reality is, I think only a very, very small number of people know what the plan is, if there is a plan to meet. I feel like there has been a kind of mood music pointing towards there being a meeting. I think we saw those aides meeting, and that kind of set the tone, I think, for this idea that there'll be a meeting. So I would be quite hopeful that there might be. Also, Harry's court case is finished as well, his court case over his challenge over his security. So there are a few things that I feel makes it possible. They haven't met since February 2024. And on a personal level, that feels to me quite sad in a way, that it feels like we're talking ultimately about a father and son. We're not suggesting that there's any kind of business discussion or anything like that, or any kind of discussion about the mechanisms of the royal machine. This is just a father and a son. And it feels to me like if they don't meet, that's quite a big deal. Yeah,
because when will he come again?
Exactly,
when will he be over again? We do know that earlier this year in his interview, Harry said that he would be open to a reconciliation. We're talking about facts, talking about speculation. Charles, what's your opinion? Do you think that the King should open the doors to Clarence House or Buckingham Palace and sit down with Harry?
Well, I don't think he should, but I agree with Victoria that it's the sadness is that this is a father and son who are at daggers drawn or have been at daggers drawn. I can't see any way forward for either of them because of, well, there's a number of issues. There's the trust issue. I mean, are you going to have Harry in a room and talk to him about a variety of things, and then watch the news bulletins from America where it's all been revealed? Now, the big problem is that Harry is flying 5,500 miles to get to London. The King is still 500 miles away in Scotland, in Balmoral. Now, I know that he's doing various things and coming down and then flying back, but he's going to be in Balmoral to the end of the summit. Now, it's unlikely you would expect the King to fly down again just to sit and have a cup of tea with Harry. It is possible that Harry could go up to Balmoral. I mean, we just don't know. And obviously in this game, you should never say never about anything, because we never know what's going to happen. But, you know, at the end of the day, there's a number of other factors as well. You've got the William factor. And from everything that everybody tells us, William's not interested in any reconciliation. You've got the Meghan factor. I'm still of the belief, and I haven't changed my opinion on it, that this woman will never set foot back in this country again. Now, if she doesn't set foot back in this country in the short term, then Archie and Lilibet is not going to come back. And that's another drama that the King will not be seeing his American grandchildren. So unless you can coax Meghan back into, you can't just have Harry reconciling with the royal family. You've got to have Meghan and Harry reconciling. And given that everything that they've said in Spare, Oprah Winfrey, any other programmes that they've been on. I can't see it happening.
Do you think Meghan needs to? Because I think by Harry saying it's not safe to bring Meghan back to the UK, it removes an obstacle.
Well, with the greatest respect, Matt, that is an absolute load of old tosh.
Yeah.
That he's saying that. This is a much safer country than the one he's living in at the moment.
But it does remove, a problem. If the family didn't want to speak to Meghan, it's just Harry that comes over.
I can't see how you could possibly have a reconciliation without the whole family being involved.
Okay.
I think Harry can come. He's coming by himself, and I think he can meet with his father. I agree that there is an issue, a trust issue there over conversations. Harry's put a lot of stuff into the public domain, but I don't think that disqualifies a meeting. I think there can, I think it's something that the royals are very mindful of, and of course you would tread carefully in that situation, but I think they can still meet. When Harry did that interview in May, I thought it was so different to the way he's spoken before about this. When he spoke, when he was promoting his book, when he was giving interviews around Spare, when he was talking about reconciliation at that time, it felt a lot more conditional. It felt like he was talking in the way that the royal family had to come to the table with, in a certain way, for him to accept that reconciliation. And then when he gave his interview in May, to me, it was just like a completely different tone. It was so much more kind of him. It felt so much more emotional. It felt like any idea that there was any conditions attached were gone. He just wanted that reconciliation. And so that's why I feel like there's been a shift. And I think, the logistics, but, this is the royal family and these people are capable of overcoming these logistics. And so I think it is possible, yes.
Well, they've got plenty of places to have a chat and plenty of time. We pointed out there, so you're right, we do understand that the King is going to remain based at Balmoral or Birkhall up in Scotland until the end of September, but he will pop back and forth. He should be at Braemar Games on the Saturday, and he may well come back for a cancer treatment or for an engagement during the week, which may shorten the window. But there would be opportunities for them. If they were to meet, what do you think they would actually talk about?
Very little, I think, really, because I don't, there is that trust issue and it's still there. But I think just to have that meeting would be meaningful.
Why is it so much important now? Because he has been over a couple of times. He pointed out February, just after the King had announced he had cancer, he came back and I think he had like half an hour with the King at Clarence House.
I think it just gets more important the more time that passes. Harry, when he's come over previously, has come over in the context of court cases and and that is, I think, has been a sticking point, has been tricky. And this feels like we've moved beyond that now, and he's going to be here. That just to me just feels like the mood is that it's very possible.
But I think we've got to remember the origin of this source of him coming or maybe coming over here, which a lot of people seem to have jumped on, which was from an unnamed American source. And with the greatest respect to people in America, unless I hear it from someone in this country that I know who actually knows what's going on, and I think you're right with your opening remark that there's very few people who actually know what's going on. And I think a lot of particularly broadcasters jumped on that, Harry's coming over, there's got to be a reunion bandwagon. And will it happen? I'm not sure. I don't think it will, but who knows?
And if it happens, will we know about it? That's the thing.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, well...
that's the one thing that I guarantee. If it happens, we will know about it at some stage.
Probably right there, yeah.
Well, that's our job to find out this kind of thing. I would endeavour to find out during the whole week. Let's imagine if we were all sat down here in a couple of weeks' time and we find out that Harry hadn't met his father. What kind of message do you think that sends out to both the British public and to Harry and to the King if he was over here for 4 or 5 days and they didn't meet?
But the rift is still on. I mean, there is no sign of the rift, ending. And I still maintain you still need to have, for an end to the rift, you still need to have the input of William and Meghan. Okay. For me, there's no question about that.
I think for the end to the rift as a whole.
Sure.
But I think that maybe is a bit unrealistic, and I think the William and Harry reconciling is much, much more unlikely. And I think it can be the case that Charles meets with his son without it having to mean anything for William and Harry's relationship. If they don't meet, I think it would send that message that I think probably for me, it would make me feel that things were worse than I thought they were, actually.
Well, I'm different to you, and I think they're already as bad as they can be. I just can't see. I mean, you're going to have them both sitting in a room. Is someone going to start open up and say, "I'm really sorry for everything that I've done"? Whoever, it doesn't matter whether it's the King says it or whether it's Harry that says it. I mean, although I think Harry's got a lot more to apologise for than the King. So you start off in that vein, and then where do you go after that? I mean, Harry's still upset about his security. He still thinks that the King can have a say in the committee that makes these decisions, although they have a royal representative on that committee. I just don't think that there's any point or any way there can be a reconciliation.
Well, I think you're right. The first thing Harry has to do if he sits down with his father is say sorry.
Sure.
And then he asks about his health, surely, and asks,
I'm
concerned about you, because at the heart of this is a very complicated father and son relationship.
Yep.
It's not for all us to peer in through the window and marvel at. This is actually quite a heartbreaking situation between father and son.
But the father's illness, the cancer, may be, if it does happen, may be the one thing that you can break the ice with, where he would sort of ask, how you doing, how's things, how's the battle going? But you've still got to get down to the nitty-gritty of everything that's been said, the allegations of racism.
I kind of feel that they can meet without having to have everything out. And I think that what Harry said in May made me feel that is now where he sees it as being, where previously he was sort of suggesting that he wanted to have all these conversations if they were going to have a relationship, whereas now I feel like there is, and that is families, you know, there's often a lot of stuff that does go unsaid, and I think you can have a meeting and you can see each other and speak about some things without having to go over everything. I think that's possible.
If I accept that, I don't entirely, but if I accept that, you've still got to do with the fact that the King's going to say, how are the grandchildren? How's Meghan? Am I ever going to see them again? You know, I mean, that is still, a thorny subject. You cannot have a reconciliation with just Harry alone. He's got a family in America, and that part of that family, or the Meghan part of that family, has made it clear of her points that she has against the royal family and Britain. You know, her relationship with Britain is destroyed.
It's a strong argument, Charles. It's something that I've not really. I thought it's easier when it's just Harry, but it's a strong argument because there are many moving parts and people involved in this.
I just think they can have this initial meeting. They can have this first step. Yeah. But whether or not they will, I mean, you know, how long is Harry here for? We don't know. And his only thing that he is doing that we know of, so the only thing he's doing publicly is obviously the Wild Child Awards on Monday. So I think it's going to be just.
But didn't I read somewhere that he was possibly going to pay homage at St George's Chapel?
Well, it's possible. He's done it in the past because it's the same. The meeting is the Wild Child is the same day as the anniversary of her death. He has been there in the past, and if it is, that would be a deeply private, personal thing for Harry.
And it's right that he should do it in any case. Yeah. But whether he does or not,
it's just a thought. But if Harry, as you've pointed out, there seemed to be a change earlier this year, where he was indicating unconditional kind of reconciliation meeting with my father. If that offer of friendship was turned down by the King, and he said, no, it's not that I'm busy or that I'm having my cancer treatment on such day, I don't want to see you. Do you think personal opinion could maybe turn against the King, or do you think he would appear petty, or would you think it's a wise decision?
One thing I would say, sorry.
Yeah, no, you go on.
One thing I would say to you is that if there was a hint of a meeting, who do you think the King's going to be speaking to first of all? William. There's no question about that. He will be speaking to William because he's got, on the one hand, he's got one son who is estranged, and he's got another son who not only is he the heir to the throne, but they're very close in any case. So he's going to be taking some advice from William, whose decision is, in my view, is going to be slightly clouded by the fact that he and his brother, it appears, do not like each other. So I just think there's still a long way to go.
I agree with you. It didn't really occur to me because you push William aside and just say, well, he's never going to meet Harry, but he's incredibly important in this whole setup.
As is Catherine.
And Catherine as well. Now we're always talking about facts, opinion and speculation, which is, what we do. But we have asked our very intelligent viewers and readers of the Sun newspaper what they think about it, because that can help us, come to a conclusion. So we've asked, should the King meet Harry next week? The poll says yes, they should meet, only 8%. Depends, Harry needs to make more effort first, 19%, but a whopping 73%. So that's, 3/4 of people that
I
have
was
answered.
surprised by that, I'll be honest.
They
I was
say no.
surprised by that, yeah. It's hard to know how representative that is of everyone in the country, but it is an interesting representation of the readers. And I think it reflects actually a lot of the polling that we see about the royal family at the moment, where the polling shows that William, Kate, King, their popularity is, high, but particularly in William and Kate's case. The King's hasn't really changed at all in 10 years or so. They're not affected in the public's eyes by this, and it's Harry and Meghan who have been affected, and it's them who are polling really low. In Harry's case, a complete turnaround from where he was at as, one of the most, if not the most popular royals. And so that is what we see. That is what we see in the polling. And I do find it interesting because I suppose, anecdotally, I would say the conversations that are being had, you feel like maybe it is different. There is this conversation of, I feel, a mood towards maybe wanting some kind of reconciliation, but it's not necessarily showing up in these polls.
Or this is just me arguing this, or is it that Harry needs a reconciliation to boost these polling figures? Maybe he needs to be closer to the King if he wants to be a little bit more popular again.
I don't think polling figures here are at the front of his mind. I think if polling figures here were at the front of his mind, he would have done a lot of things differently over the years.
And also, I think as well that Harry needs, with the polling figures, I think it's a reflection of what we know in the country. And you two, same as I, you go out and meet other people who suddenly find out what you do. And the first question is, what do you think about Harry and Meghan? We don't think they should ever come back. I haven't come across anyone who thinks that Harry should be welcomed back into the family.
I've actually come across a lot of people, because often we have this conversation as journalists, you're meeting friends or associates or friends of friends and stuff, and they ask you these questions. I've found a lot of people have changed their opinion about Harry, whereas 5 years ago they were like, I think people have been a bit harsh towards Harry, and now they're just saying, I'm kind of sick and tired of him. I think it's got worse over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
We better move on, because we've got 2 or 3 more weeks of this show. We'll probably be talking about this potential meeting. Does this meeting happen, and what are the repercussions of them not meetings? So let's move on to the next topic. Let's take a little trip to California, back in the reverse, journey of what Harry's taking. Now, Meghan has shared some pictures of Archie and Lilibet. I say shared some pictures. We don't get to see their faces. We get to see the back of their heads, and I think this is promote a little bit more of a Netflix show. Does anyone there's been some criticism about Meghan sharing pictures of her children. Is it fair criticism? Where do we stand on Meghan's use of these photos?
It always comes up whenever she posts pictures of the children. And this idea that's presented is that she wanted to have a life away from the spotlight. But to my mind, what they really wanted was control. They wanted control over what they put out, what they did. They wanted to turn their own money. They wanted to have nothing but their own opinions to influence what they shared about their children. And that's what they've got. And this, to me, is entirely a reflection of that. She's taken this stance where she doesn't show their faces. She shows the backs of their heads, or she blurs their faces, or puts whatever, like a lot of people do, a picture in front. And that's what she's decided to do. And I think, that is everyone's prerogative as a parent. And it was always about control. It was always about control. I think while there is always going to be this thing with them, because these accusations of cashing in on the royals are always going to be there, because they have the profiles that they have because of the royal family. But there's not really anything they can do about that. And I think if they're not talking about the royal family or overtly promoting royalness in what they're doing, there is a point where you have to say, just let them get on with it and do their thing and take their position about how they want to present themselves.
I'm pretty sure Beatrice and Eugenie do the same.
Yeah,
I don't think they show
exactly,
pictures of the children's faces.
But it's slightly different in as much as they're not in frontline royals as such. I mean, I've got no problems at all with them protecting their children's identities and everything else. I think it's pointless having them on the screen with little grey hearts cut out to cover their faces, or just the back of their heads. I just don't see the point. Do I care that much? No, not really. No, I'm
fascinated to one day learn more about Archie and Lily. You know what I mean? So we don't know much about them, but do we have a right to know about them? They're literally a private family, earning their own money, living in California. So it's up to the Sussexes to decide what.
It is up to it's up to mum and dad to decide when they, if you like, come out into the public arena. I mean, I'm sure that at some stage we will see their faces. Because as far as I can remember, the only actually thing we've seen of Archie was a toe or something, or a foot.
Pictures,
at the birth. But
I think it's interesting, Meghan's Instagram in general, because obviously she's gone back on Instagram. She's using this platform now, and there's this sense of sort of keeping the platform active. But I mean, it makes me smile because I have this sort of thing with my Instagram as well, where I'm like, I should be posting more, I should be doing this. And it feels a bit like she hasn't quite got a cohesive approach to it yet, in terms of like, sometimes it's these professional shots from the show, promotional videos. Other times, it's like one time it was this incredibly revealing behind the scenes video, and then another time it's like Harry surfing, and then it's these it does, like, her Instagram is quite inconsistent, but a lot of people's Instagrams are inconsistent, mine included.
I might be wrong, but I think the photograph, or one of the photographs we saw, I think that the children were actually on the set for With Love Meghan. Yeah. That's the picture we're talking about.
That's what I think.
I don't avidly watch her Instagram page.
I find it hard to believe.
I don't always watch it, but that's what I believe the photo was. Which brings me on to With Love Meghan. It's a couple of weeks since it's come out. I did watch it. I got in trouble last week because I said it was okay. I thought it was all right. It's not terrible. I don't mind the show. But I don't think overall viewers agree with me. These are unofficial viewing figures. So Netflix haven't actually released the viewing figures yet, but it's apparently 134th on the global Netflix rankings and 48th in the reality rankings for Netflix. We'll get the official details soon, but this is what is being publicised at the moment. Where do you stand on With Love? Has it been a hit? Is it something that you have avoided? Was there anything right or wrong about it, Charles?
Well, I much prefer Mobland, to be perfectly honest, on television, rather than watching Meghan cooking up something or doing whatever it is she does. It doesn't surprise me that it's that low in the figures that we know. What does surprise me is, Netflix is a big company and it wants success. I don't think this helps their success. So there has to come a time, and I think we're getting closer and closer to it each time, that Netflix have a proper old look and think, is this really worth it? I haven't. I mean, I see things on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, and other social media about the programme, and she's getting an awful lot of criticism for it. An awful lot of criticism. But it's not something that bothers me in the slightest. But
it occurs to me that never has there been someone who has been written about so much, or a show that's been written about so much and viewed so little compared to the written coverage. Yeah,
that's interesting, because the Netflix, they've obviously redone the deal, and I know a lot of people have described it as a downgraded deal, but ultimately Netflix have continued to work with them and does still see them as a draw. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because like you say, everyone talks about them, everyone talks about what they do. It felt to me like this second series, when the first series came out, I mean, obviously the reviews were so bad and it was criticised across the board, but there was this real sense of like everyone was talking about it and people were watching it. Feels like it's all been down a notch this second time, and that doesn't surprise me either, because it is the same content. It's no longer a surprise, it's no longer new to us. And the question is, how does she sustain? Can she sustain? And it does matter to them, because this programme is a big deal for them. This Netflix deal, it's a big deal. It's a big part of what they've been focusing their energies on, what they've been doing with their lives since they left the royal family. And this show feels like it's the flagship really for the Netflix deal, because it's the one that has the tie-in with the product range. It's the show that's had 2 series. And so if this doesn't work, where do they go from here?
Isn't it more a reflection, though, that a large number of people don't like Meghan, don't want to watch really anything that she's in, given what we've seen so far, not just with this program, but, you know, obviously going back to the Netflix series and everything else. And I just think that, you know, the people don't want to see anything. I mean, if it was in this country, and people start off a series, if it gets axed pretty quickly, that's when you know.
So you mean people watched it the first time to kind of see out of intrigue, and then have decided not to come back?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but I think, you know, this is, for her, this is like, I think it's important on a business level, but also I feel like on a personal level, because this is how she wants to be seen. You know, she has curated this, and I found it kind of intriguing how she does seem to have shrugged off the criticism of it in quite easily, in a way. Like when she's spoken about it, she sort of made a joke saying, well, they're criticising me, and then going and making a single skillet pasta. And I thought that showed like that she was actually able to brush the criticism off. And I think the reason that she's been able to do that is because she has been in control of how she's presented herself, and she's chosen to present herself how she wants. So she's a bit more at peace with how people are receiving it. But the business question, is do they get a 3rd series now? What happens?
But I wonder whether her shrugging off is a bit of an act, that there is a real decision, there is a real problem there, that she thinks, oh, the people aren't.
I think the reason she's been able to shrug off the criticism so easily is because she's been paid a lot of money.
Oh, sure.
So I think she's able to say, well, I'm making a lot of money off this. So, but sticking in California. Now, this is a story we picked up that do you know about this? She's recently quietly closed down her profile. This is something that was launched earlier this year on an online storefront full of affiliate links to clothes. This is foreign to me. I don't understand how this works, but this is a Shop My function.
Yeah.
And it's disappeared. Does this mean that is this a fate? You know, something broken down? Has something failed? Or are we going to wait for some yet another relaunch? Do we know what's gone on with this?
I don't think we do. I mean, there hasn't been any proper information about what's gone on with it. It does seem that the site isn't up and running in the way it was, but there could be lots of different reasons for that. So, I mean, this is obviously one of these things where you curate your shop window and you get money based on whether people purchase these clothes or not. And at the time when she did it, it did attract a lot of attention. The products that she'd chosen, I think she had a Windsor dress on there. But this falls into that category of, you know, they've gone to be independent and they're not working royals and they want to earn their own money, and that's what they're doing now. But I don't know. I don't know if this is a permanent thing or a temporary thing in terms of it not being available.
Once again.
It is, but also I think as well that it'd be far too easy to say, oh, she's failed at this. I mean, I think there's got to be much more to it. It could well be that there are other online organisations. Have we got Vinted in this country where you can buy clothes and everything else? So that there is quite a prominence of these type of vehicles online for people to buy things. Now, just because Meghan's selling a Windsor dress, I'm sure it won't be costing £3.50.
No,
it'll be. There's not many people who can afford that sort of stuff that she may be selling.
I mean, it could just be a temporary pause.
Could be.
We need to keep an eye on it, because she has put herself out there as a founder, a businesswoman, as a successful businesswoman in all her podcasts. So she needs to have some business successes.
Is she still selling her very highly priced jam?
Yes.
No, absolutely. Like, that's the big thing with this tie-in with Netflix. They're a passive partner, which no one has, and this is the thing about all of these deals. We don't actually have the concrete information about what these deals entail. There was, $100 million supposedly the last deal, but no one really knew exactly. And what does that even mean? Is that a budget for shows? Is that what they get paid? It's totally unclear what the financials are. But Netflix has said that they're a passive partner. And usually that would mean investment, but no active involvement in the running. But clearly the products and the show are tied in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. You're talking about a 3rd series. I mean, we only have the holiday special.
Yeah. But I'm intrigued that you quite liked it, Matt.
I thought it was just okay.
I did too.
I found myself, and I'm
yeah.
going to get such in trouble for this, but I found myself tapping my foot every now and again and thinking, this is just quite nice. If they'd done that in 2020, 2021 or something like that, they might have taken a few more members of the public with them rather than doing Oprah and a six-part.
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting about it as well, is that it's so neutral in terms of how she's now chosen to present herself is not giving opinions, and there was a sense when she was in the royal family that there was a frustration at not being able to be more outspoken. But now this is not in any way controversial. It's incredibly, this sort of unifying, welcoming presence, which is actually what we look to the royal family for in terms of feel-good, unifying sort of persona,
Well, she said she was silenced, famously on Oprah. Were you silent or silenced? She said, she was silenced. And the other day she said that she wasn't allowed to be vocal when she was in the royal family. And it seems that she wants to use her voice initially to moan and whinge and complain, but now talk about flower petals and what a lovely time that she's having. I'm quite disappointed that we don't have a more political or a more outspoken or a more controversial, Meghan, because that's what we were led to believe that she was stopped from doing at the royal family. Anyway, we're going off on a massive tangent here.
Covering everything.
Let's fly back from California, back to the UK, and go back to the 1960s. Fascinating book from Valentine Low, a good friend of the show. He's been on a couple of times. And there's an anecdote, and I want to get your thoughts on this. It made a front page of our paper, and it made coverage all over the place from Valentine Low's book, where he's spoken to a source close to Boris Johnson, the former PM of the UK, who says that Queen Camilla, back in the 1960s, a pervert, a groper, came up to her on the train, and she fought him off whacked him with the heel of the shoe, and went and informed the police. My initial thought to this was, what a gal. This is good PR for Camilla, and we know that she has worked extensively in this sphere, helping out women in sexual violence and also domestic violence.
Yeah, and obviously this was way before she had any idea that she would be doing anything publicly in terms of working. But I think it's an astonishing story to come out, and to come out third hand as well, because this was Boris who spoke to Camilla, who spoke to a member of staff, who spoke to the author of this book. And my first thought, actually, when I saw it, was how did this get over the line? Because we know in this country there is automatic anonymity that is given to victims of any sexual violence from the moment the allegation is made. And so my thinking was, how did this get published? And actually, Valentine was asked this on Good Morning Britain a couple of days ago, the day before, and he answered it, and he said, he'd spoken to the lawyers, and he said he had spoken to Buckingham Palace, and what he said was that his feeling was that he thought Camilla was quite pragmatic about this, she wasn't haunted by it, and that she felt that if there was some kind of conversation that could maybe help people, that could be a positive thing. So that sort of answered my question that I initially had about that. But yeah, I mean,
we can't trivialise the incident, because obviously it must. But, and she has often spoken about, I'm not trying to trivialising it to other victims, that have maybe had more serious things happen to them. But Charles, you would have reported on Camilla as she was before she was Queen for a long time. What does this say about her personality and what kind of woman she is?
Well, I think it re-emphasises the fact that she's a very gutsy lady. We're talking about different times as well. Would a woman do the same today, given the propensity for violence and everything else? She said that this is what my mother taught me to do, which was a good skill. And what we don't know is what happened to the perpetrator. We don't know whether he was arrested, whether he faced a charge, whether he was brought before a court. So we don't know that. But she did fight off this guy. I mean, we all know, unfortunately, there are too many women who have to face this dreadful thing happening to them. And I think it can only help the cause that Camilla supports in helping women who have gone through these traumatic events. So all kudos to her. I mean, I'm somewhat. I accept what you say about Valentine going to the palace. I I would be surprised if Buckingham Palace actually sort of said, yeah, go ahead, just print it.
Well, I think they were adamant that
they
they didn't brief it, so they didn't. They weren't actually keen on it coming out. But I think once they heard that it was coming out, they were like, well.
Yes, but other times when they've heard things, they have put the mockers on things, appearing in print. Clearly, they've gone to Camilla, they've spoken to her, and she has maybe not said, yeah, go ahead, I'm not that bothered, but she's not said, no, I don't want that to come out.
She's a very strong voice in this arena.
She's a very strong voice, very powerful. I mean, the first time I remember her being involved in any sort of charity stuff was the Osteoporosis Society. She was very vocal in that. And since becoming, first of all, a princess and then queen, she's taken on a lot more of hard-nosed charities, really, that she gets involved in, like the reading for children, the 500 words scenario, which I think is very, very important in helping to teach young children, to read and write in schools. So she is doing the business.
I think from a work perspective, I think that she's got more and more invested as time has gone on, and on a personal level in the causes that she's championing. I think when it started off, I think it was about, she would love Charles, she wanted to support him, she married him because she loved him, and she accepted that this was part of her job and that there was a public element. But I think as she's met people and as she's gone out and spoken to people, I think there's been some stories and the things that people have told her that have really moved her in a very personal way to feel very invested. I think domestic violence is one area where she's heard stories that have really propelled her work. And I think with the sexual violence and victims of sexual violence, it has started to hit home, I think, with the public, that she's really championing this issue and the survivors, the stories of the survivors. And I think it actually takes quite a lot to get the public to see and know what charities and what causes you're championing as a royal. I think you need to be very consistent and do it for quite a long time before the general public really catches on. And I think she's done that with this issue, and people know that's what she stands for.
And I mean, I remember that, in the early days of Camilla and, all the problems that we're having in the marriages, I mean, we were writing stories that were severely critical, of Camilla, practically every day, certainly every week. But latterly I met her 2 or 3 times, and she's a nice lady. She's quite good fun. She's got great sense of humour. And I think, and I echo everything that Victoria said about, I think right at the start, she didn't quite understand what the new job meant that she would have to be involved in. But suddenly, very much like the late Princess of Wales, suddenly realised that there are certain causes that I can get my teeth into, and I can do a lot of good by supporting them.
Well, I've been there at speeches the last couple of years, and she holds reception at Buckingham Palace. And I remember one she did where she talked about there'd been Sarah Everard's death, and she was talking about men need to come on board and really need to change their attitudes. And another time she was talking about an epidemic of violence against women, she called it. She came out with some really strong statistics. And I just think, bring it back to the Duchess of Sussex every time, but she said that she, struggled to be vocal in the royal family. Queen Camilla has shown that you can be vocal, be a woman, and be in the royal family.
Sophie has been similarly very. Were you going to say the same thing?
Well, Sophie,
Sophie's been very vocal on that same issue as well.
Right. So they've got voices.
Yeah, they've got voices.
And we keep hearing them.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah. Right, just briefly, I don't know about you guys today, but I came into the office, or I came into our studio, and it was a bit of a kind of back-to-school vibe, I think. The tubes were busy, it was raining, it was packed, everyone seems to be returning after their summer holidays, and I'm just imagining across the royal households, they're kind of ironing the school uniforms, they've packed the pencil cases for George and Louis. It's the start of a new term.
Yeah.
It's the start of a new term. So just casting our minds forward, ignoring Harry's return next week, what are you looking forward to? We've already got Queen Camilla's been in Cornwall, the King's of Birmingham, Prince and Princess of Wales will be returning to, I think, the first engagement this week. They're at the Natural History Museum. We've got a couple of months to look forward to. What are you looking forward to?
I think there should be an overseas trip sometime in October for the King and Queen.
We don't know where it is yet.
And we don't know where it is yet. We've got William's Earthshot Prize that's I think that's in Brazil, is it?
Yep, in Rio in November.
Brazil's a great country. If you get a chance, get
Go.
there. I think that the bandwagon will just keep on rolling as we have seen it rolling. I think there might be even more work for Sophie and Edward to do as well, because there's not many of them left.
They're off to Japan in September. Sophie. What are you really looking forward to?
I think the state visit's got to be a really big moment. State visit in September. I think it's going to be really interesting. Lots to talk about. Lots of visual. Always with a state visit.
Lots of protests.
I think it's just going to. Well, I mean, what public elements will there be? The security question is very different with the US president and always has been. So I think that's going to be a big moment, and we're going to see the royal family en masse in that moment, we would expect anyway. It feels now like we're, in this back-to-school rhythm, September. I feel like this summer was maybe a tiny bit different for me in that it didn't feel like there was as much of a prolonged pause for all the royals. When I think about August, like Princess Anne went to Dublin in August. Many of the royals appeared for VJ Day. Queen Camilla also went to York Racecourse in August, and they're coming back now and this week and been quite visible. And this is anecdotal because I haven't added it all up, but in previous years, I felt like we've had longer, more consistent periods out of the spotlight from all the royals. So that was kind of interesting for me this summer to see. With Prince and Princess of Wales, obviously Kate had a very gradual return to work last year. I think there's still a real reluctance to commit her to too much, but I'm quite hopeful that we might see a bit more of her in the next few weeks than we have done.
Yeah, well, I don't think she'll be going to Brazil with William. No. And I don't think there's any foreign trips on the horizon for Catherine quite yet. But yeah, hopefully we'll see him. I imagine they'll be busy next week when Harry's over. I imagine there'll be lots of engagements for William and Catherine, but let's see. Right, we just got a bit of time for our quickfire questions to round up the show. So take a deep breath, please. As we were just saying, it's back to school for children across the country. So who, in your opinion, was the cleverest royal at school?
Well, I'm glad you gave me warning on this because I looked at all their exams, and the cleverest royal is Princess Eugenie, matched by Catherine, who both got a 2-1 at university in their various subjects. Harry, as we know, didn't do terribly well at school, but I'm not critical of Harry of doing that because I'm someone who didn't do too well at school myself, but he's certainly done well after, with his army training and
Sandhurst,
and Sandhurst and everything else. He didn't fail at that. Okay, he may have had to leave it because a leg up because he's a prince, but he didn't do too badly. William didn't do too badly either, and neither did Beatrice. Meghan didn't do, obviously, A-levels at school. And again, that's not a criticism over their education system's far different to ours, and she ended up at Northwestern University in media and arts, I think it was.
All the things about research. Everyone's education.
Eugenie, the cleverest royal at school?
Well, technically she is.
I was going to say Kate because she did chemistry A-level. And I didn't know that for a long time because they never said what A-level she did initially. And we knew that she'd done history of art at St Andrews. We knew that she'd got a 2-1. But I'd sort of presumed for a long time that she did more arts-based A-levels for that subject. But then I remember being in Oslo a few years ago with her, and she told a member of the crowd right in front of me that she'd done chemistry and biology at A-level. And since then, it's gone up on the Royal Household's website what her A-levels were. And I think chemistry is very hard, so especially at A-level. So I'm quite impressed with that.
I know that Lady Louise is very clever.
That's correct.
When she
they
was
never
at school,
said what her results were, did they? But
I think she might have got straight A's, but I don't think that's official. But she absolutely aced her A-levels, and she's doing very well at university. So all the women are the cleverest ones.
There you go.
There we go. Right, I don't know if you saw this, but Lib Dem leader Ed Davey refuses to attend Donald Trump's state visit, state dinner. So can you name 2 wildcard guests who could take his and his wife's place?
I mean, I think we should go. No?
They'd never have.
That'd be amazing.
They would never let us through the door, Victoria.
I wouldn't know which knife or fork or spoon to use.
I was going to say the Beckhams, but I presume they're already going. But I mean, they might be, because it's obviously a US-UK contingent, and they fit that bill. And obviously, every other royal event has to have David Beckham at it. So
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I don't think Ed Davey is going to be a loss to that dinner in any case. However, I would like to see Nigel Farage there. He's in effect been banned by Starmer, so I think he should be there. He's also a friend of Trump, so let's not forget. They're quite close chums, and also, controversially perhaps, I'd like to see Vladimir Zelensky there as well. I mean, that would show a great, moral support for the guy and Ukraine again.
Oh, wonderful, because Farage didn't go to the French state visit. We don't know what's going to happen potentially at the US, but Farage and Zelensky would be awesome. And us. Maybe they could fit us there as well.
Yeah,
I can't believe no one said Harry and Meghan.
you just did.
I'll say Harry and Meghan. And finally, back to Meghan. So Meghan has shared her playlist for filming her Netflix show this week. What song reminds you of her series, or what song would you include in her series?
I think it's really hard. I mean, the show makes me think of just on the face of it, I think of Jack Johnson banana pancakes or something like that. Like she's making pancakes. It's all very chill, very acoustic guitar vibes. So that would make me think of it.
I've got two for you. I've got Who's Sorry Now by the late Connie Francis, or I Can Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Good titles. And again, no one said Stop by the Spice Girls. I'll throw that one in as mine. Right, thanks, guys. We've had a lot of fun. Been
Pleasure.
Everything. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Right, that's all we have time for in this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments as we do read them, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next week.